Hey guys, the screen is blurred right now because this is actually a member exclusive video before the release of Mega Rising. So if you're a member watching this, but you don't want to be spoiled, don't worry, click out right now. Now, if you don't mind being spoiled, or this is after the release of Mega Rising, which this is going to have 2 uploads, hopefully, with the rather new feature on YouTube, well then, in this video, I'm going to be going over and reviewing the cards from each of these packs that I think are really interesting as a competitor and a content creator. And I'm going to start with the pack that I'm going to focus down on first, and that's going to be Mega Altaria. And the number 1 card in this pack that I'm focusing down is the Mega Ampharos EX. I have said this since day one, since I first saw this card with cards like Zeraora or Corio Pichu. I think Mega Ampharos EX is going to be such an amazing card in the meta for Pokemon Pocket. And it's a lightning type, so this is one of the biggest reasons why I am chasing down Mega Altaria. However, they also have some other really cool EXs, so let's go over all the EXs first that you can get from this pack and what I think about them. I think Mega Altaria EX is going to be pretty strong, especially with all these Pokemon with 50 HPs, and you could tie it in with the combo of a Lisia, I already forgot her name, the supporter that finds you the 2 basic Pokemon with 50 HPs, your babies, and then you could start hitting for 130, pair this up with something like, I don't know, Aegislash, and maybe you can start hitting for even more. I think this is pretty good, especially for a stage 1 Pokemon. I mean, we all know how crazy Gyarados was as a stage 1, and that was, what was it, 120 damage for 4 energy. This is 2 energy, 130 damage with a full bench, and your HP is a little bit bigger. It's faster. I think this could be a really strong Mega Pokemon. Next up is Whimsicott EX. I'm excited to try this out for content. This is not a reason why I am chasing down this pack for competitive, but in terms of content, I feel like we can make some really cool ideas and decks with this. In fact, there's probably another video that is going up after release, or if you remember, it's already up now. You can watch it, where I built 25 decks day 1, and there is a Whimsicott EX deck. So if you want to know more about that, check that out. But yeah, I just Grass Knot doing 40 damage plus 30 more for each energy in your opponent's active retreat cost. It really just depends, right? It depends on what type of deck your opponent's playing. So, I mean, Oricorio's better than this because it goes into everything that runs EXs, and everything runs a ton of EXs. This really depends on, is your opponent running high retreat costs? But even if they're not, you're guaranteed to at least hit for 70 if they have 1, 100 if they have 2, 130 if they have 3 retreat costs. So it's like not terrible, but it's also it's interesting. Let's just say that. All right, Indeedee EX is next, and honestly, this one I had a really hard time building a deck around. But I think you don't build it in Psychic decks. I mean, yes, the move Psychic, this attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, and it's 30 plus to start. That's pretty good, but I think Watch Over is even better, and it stacks, right? So if you have 2 Indeedees on your bench, that's plus 40 HP every turn. In a game where Mega Pokemon, if you lose them, you lose the game. I don't know, maybe having double Indeedees on bench to keep your Megas alive sounds good. And it only retreats for 1. So that's kind of where the block I'm putting it at right now. Like, it could be a really nice supporter Pokemon just on the bench to heal your active. But in terms of comp, I really don't know. Content, we can make decks for days with this one. And then finally, we have Tauros EX, 140 Wild Tackle. This thing can synergize with Ilima. It can get going with baby Pokemon. It's a basic. It's not bad, and it's colorless. You could throw this into literally any deck. So I'm not super against this Pokemon. The 90 and dealing 30 back to yourself kind of stinks. But you could run something like Will, maybe, and Ilima, right, to prevent damage. But even if you do take damage, that's not entirely bad if you have Ilima. You know what I'm saying? Some quick combos could be like lightning decks with Pichu. Get this guy online, have a Zeraora on your bench, elemental switch. You don't even need to elemental switch that turn. You go into this guy, Tauros, hit for 90, take 30 damage to yourself. Ilima, bring it back. Elemental switch the Zeraora, switching your Pichu for free. Back into the Tauros with max HP. Give it the energy from the energy zone. Now you're hitting 90 again, regardless of heads or tails. So there's a lot of ways you can play this. So like, I actually do think it could be very competitive. competitive. It's not the craziest card, but it's also not the worst card. And that's why just these 5 EXs, I'm like, yo, Mega Altaria is the pack for me. And that's why I'm running down this pack for the first few days. Now, I quickly want to go over the other cards in this deck. We have a Lilligant that has the Toughness Aroma. This is a card we already know about. The plus 20 HP to grass types. That's great for content, but also great for competitive. And speaking of competitive, what the heck do we think about Rillaboom here? 150 HP. That's cool, whatever. Drum Rush for 120 for 4 energy. All right, buddy. But the Captivating Rhythm, once during your turn, you may flip a coin. Play Will, okay? If heads, switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon to the active spot. That sounds like you get to choose. And that sounds like you also get to use this from your bench. So do you guys see what I like? Like Rillaboom seems kind of nutty. This seems like it could be a very incredibly strong Pokemon, especially with Will. It's not even a Cyrus. They don't even need damage. So if they have a Mega Pokemon on the bench, Rillaboom's like, hey, come here real quick. Let me talk to you. That's scary, dude. So I feel like this could be a very good card. Next up is Chandelure. I think this one's pretty funny, especially for mill decks. There's a couple variations. Maybe you run Chandelure with a Mega Absol and a non-EX Mega Absol variant, where the whole idea is discarding from their hand, milling from the top of their deck. You could run that, but then you couldn't really attack with your Chandelure here. But I don't think that's entirely a problem. The issue I have with Chandelure is if you don't get this type of strategy going by turn 3, turn 4, oftentimes your opponents already have everything they need to just beat you and win the game, right? So if you can get this by like turn 2, turn 3, then this could be extremely valuable. Just start discarding cards, rare candies, their evolutions, the cards they need to win the game, and then they just have to concede. So it really just depends on how fast you can get your Chandelure online, I think. Jirachi is also in this pack, and we already know how I feel about Jirachi, and if you don't, I love it. It just one-taps baby Pokemon, just KOs babies. What a guy. Gumi is also in this pack, and it says as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, attacks used by your opponent's active Pokemon costs 1 more. That's pretty good, especially if you're going to be evolving into the Goodra. It does require Water, Psychic, and Colorless, so maybe you run something like Giratina, ramps itself, Dawn into the Goodra, and then guarantee that 100 after maybe you ramp with a Mantike or even just by yourself, running only Water energy. So I don't think it's terrible, because on top of that, you could also run Iridas in this deck because you're guaranteed to have Water energy, so you're technically healing 80 every turn. I think Goodra could be actually pretty meta. The issue I have with it is the retreat cost and the HP, especially with all of these mega Pokemon, man. It kind of seems a little lackluster. But the recovery is very good. And then finally, the card that I think I'm very excited about because I can build this with a multitude of decks in my collection from the Mega Altaria pack is Lisia. I got the name right, where you put 2 random basic Pokemon with 50 HP or less from your deck into your hand. I can build 40 decks with this card alone, and not including babies, right? Baby Pokemon. So I'm very excited for this card. And that's why I'm targeting this whole pack first, being the Mega Altaria pack. And the next pack that I think would be really good that I'm going to target second is going to be Mega Blaziken. And let's start with the EXs. Mega Pinsir, I think I've already talked about it time and time again. I think it's actually pretty good. It's not terrible. It's not your start, but it's definitely your finisher. And I have a deck, like I talked about earlier. I really think it's going to be good. It might catch you guys off guard. It is a spicy deck, that's for sure. But yeah, it hits for 80. It hits for 150 if you flip a coin and hit heads for 3 energy. I don't think it's that bad. What I do think is bad is Rapidash EX. Sprinting Flare 110 is cool, but for 3 energy, bro? Dude, this stinks, man. I built a deck around it, but it just doesn't feel good. You also do snipe benched Pokemon for your opponent's side for 20, and you'll see there's another card in this set that I think is even better than this that does the exact same thing for, I think, almost the same damage. However, it's not an EX. It retreats for free, and it does it for 1 less damage. So I don't know. I just feel like Rapidash really got the short end of the stick here. And with that being said, I think all the other EXs are phenomenal in this pack. Mega Blaziken EX, I already said this time and time again, for 2 energy, 120 AK, 140 because of the burn, is crazy. This is so incredibly strong. But before we even go into another EX, there's the non-EX Blaziken that does the exact same thing for 100, discards 1 energy, but doesn't burn. Great Oricorio counter if you're trying to run a solo Blaziken deck with maybe something like Magby or Cleffa to find your cards. I think this could be a very good card to combo with your Mega Blaziken EX. All right, now back to the EXs. Hitmonchan EX, quick straight 50 damage. It'll never do 70 even if they have a weakness. I think this is pretty good. One-shots babies and one-shots a ton of basic Pokemon. If you're going second, I think you need to run this with Giovanni because then you're just knocking out basic Pokemon that are at 60 or 50 HP. And getting a very, very fast price point on the board. However, if you're going first, it kind of stinks. But with that being said, I feel like there's a specific deck that you could play this around that works really well. And final EX is Dragalge EX. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If not, that's always how I've pronounced it. So sorry, not sorry. Poison point. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's active Pokemon, or not active, your opponent's Pokemon, the attacking Pokemon is now poisoned. You play this with double Nihilijos, maybe even Darkrai. I feel like this could take over a Crobat. Essentially, you just have to take damage and you don't have access to Lily and the HP is a little bit less, but you do a little bit more damage and you can get online much quicker and you don't need things like Rare Candy. Instead, you can play the new May and then find this card, evolve it by turn 2 and start using a Draconic Whip for 80 and then wait for them to hit you to poison them. It also kind of stops them. Like, are they? It's a free poison point. You could even throw something like Rocky Helmet to guarantee the more chip damage from the Rocky Helmet. Your Darkrai pings, and if they hit you, they get poisoned. The Nihilijo, like the amount of ping, extra added damage, it just adds up so fast. So I think this is a really strong, pretty interesting, toxic EX Pokemon. Now let's talk about the non-EXs that I think are pretty cool for competitive and also content. We have Shiftry here, Nipping Cyclone 70. It's a Oricorio counter, but also discard a random card from your opponent's deck. Sorry, not deck, hand. I've been doing a lot of videos today. Discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Hello, that's pretty good. It also adds to the whole milling idea. There's a lot of cards that discard this set, and I'm kind of a huge fan of this. So I think this could be very fun and very good. Next up is the Luxray that is literally Rapidash EX. This is what I was talking about, but better, really. Honestly, 130 HP, it's only 20 HP difference. You could use a Volkner with this. It's a lightning, it's a colorless energy. The only difference is it is a stage 2, so maybe that's why it's a bit better. It kind of makes sense. A Rapidash is a stage 1, this is a stage 2, but like this does exactly what you need it to do and it retreats for free. It snipes the bench. I think this is a really good card. I think this is a fantastic card, competitively and for content. Next card is probably only for content, and that's Dusknoir. It's a new Dusknoir with the ability Fade into Darkness. When this Pokemon's knocked out, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent can't get any points for it. Now, this is cool because you can get something online, hit for 80, hit for 80, hit for 80, and if your opponent knocks you out, you've already done, what, 80, 160 damage on the board, maybe even more, right? They can knock you out, and if you flip heads, they get no point for that. They get nothing for that. And I think that's pretty valuable. Not competitively, but definitely for a couple videos here and there. Next up is Archeops, which is a wild Pokemon with a wild move. I think this is kind of crazy, to be honest. It's a stage 2, which will take you a long time to get online. The argument's like, why wouldn't you just play Rampardos? And I feel like you do play Rampardos, but there might be areas where you do Archeops instead. For 1 energy wild spin, this does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And then the following turn, it does 40 to each of your opponents. So it goes from dealing, if they have a full board, what is that, 80 to 160 plus 80 across 2 turns. Like it's a little scary. And this is divvied up to every single Pokemon. It's not like 116 to 1, right? It's just so much spread out across the board. And I think if you're able to wild spin, I don't know, 2 times boosted in a row, you're picking up some rather quick prize points in this game. Next is Golurk. I think this is a hilarious card. It says Heavy Rocket for 2 fighting energy, 60x. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. This attack does 60 damage for each Pokemon with a retreat cost of 3 or more you find there, and then shuffle the revealed cards back into your deck. You'd be surprised if you thought you couldn't build a deck with this. I built a very cheesy deck. It's part of my 25 decks on day 1. And I'm honestly very proud of it. It reminds me a whole lot of the Magcargo cheese that we got with the Magcargo Spitfire, because it's a whole lot of cheese in this deck, man. And I can't wait to hear from you guys to see what you guys think about that. Just strategy and overall idea revolving around Golurk. I think it's pretty funny. I think it's pretty good. Aegislash is already a Pokemon that we've talked about. It's already been released. I think this thing is going to be busted. It's so good. It's a stage 2, yes, but plus 30 to Psychic and Metal Pokemon. What? That is crazy good. I'm very excited for this card. And then of course I made an entire video already about Flame Patch. Fantastic card. I think it's going to be a must, especially for fire decks that discard, and there are so many. And then May is a card that you're absolutely going to be searching for in the Blaziken pack. So that's why it's my second focused pack, because putting 2 random Pokemon from your deck into your hand, like that just screams very helpful for stage 2 decks. And I'm like conflicted, because I really want a May, but also if I prio Mega Altaria, I can just, if I don't get this with my lucky first 10 pack of opening Mega Blaziken, I could just use the 70 pack points to get it, because I think I will need it for Mega Ampharos. But yeah, dude, this is a fantastic card. Very excited for this. And I think this levels up a significant amount of stage 2 decks. Which brings us to the final pack that I'm really not crazy about. There's like maybe 1 or 2 cards that I'm like, oh, I really want those to try out things. And it's the Mega Gyarados EX. Again, this is all like personal choice, I guess. But in terms of like content creation and competitive usage, I just don't think these are the packs for me, right? So like Mega Gyarados, we've already talked about this. Mega Blaster Mill, crazy move. It's cool. It'd be good for like maybe 1 video. I just don't know how competitive or meta this is going to be. A lot of people are like, this is going to break the meta. I'm still 50-50. I am the guy who said Gyarados would suck, and it turned out to be very good. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence on this one. What I am not on the fence for is the Greninja EX. Who thought this was a good idea? So like, I just want to know, from all the survey and the feedback we gave them about Greninja's ping damage with Suicune and how we hate it, they're like, you know what? We hear you. Here's a Greninja EX, because now you can use Shifting Stream. Once during your turn, you may switch your active water Pokemon with one of your bench. You know what that means? You can use Suicune now and not even like give it energy. You can just have it there to draw, and you can ramp up a Giratina on the bench, and then maybe even just a non-EX Greninja to counter Oricorios. And then with the Greninja, all you have to do is then activate this ability and switch it with your Giratina, switch it with this Greninja to swing for 100, or maybe even the other Greninja. It's actually disgusting. Whoever is in charge of creating these cards, it's clear as day that they are a huge Greninja fan. Next up is Jolteon EX with the electromagnetic wall ability. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their energy zone to one of their Pokemon, do 20 damage to it. This literally counters Darkrai and Giratina, and I love it. This is pretty good. What's it called? This also says it would deal 60 damage to Stokezard potentially. Like, that's kind of funny if I'm understanding it correctly. It's a pretty nice control card. However, 80 damage isn't crazy for 2 lightning energies. However, it does have one of the higher HPs in Lightning EX Pokemon that are not a Mega Pokemon, right? Like Mega Ampharos is clearly the highest at 210. Every other Lightning EX, I believe, is at 130 max, 120 like the Pikachu's. So Jolteon being at 140 isn't bad, I don't think. I think this is pretty good, actually. I'm kind of very excited to play this card, and this is probably the only card, because Jolteon is literally my favorite evolution as well. So like, I think this is the only reason why I would want to pull this pack, to find the Jolteon EX. Next up is Mega Absol EX. I've already talked about this a lot. I don't think this is going to be good. I think it's cool to choose a supporter card you find in your opponent's hand and discard it. I think it's a problem if you don't find their Cyrus and you take damage and then you retreat and then they have Cyrus and then they just win the game by knocking out your Mega Absol. That's where I'm sitting on for this Pokemon card, but like, could be good. I don't know. I'm not gonna try to sell you guys on a card that I myself truly don't believe, right? And then finally, Melmetal EX. I didn't expect this. This seems kind of cracked, especially with cards like Memory Light, Hello, and the Ramping Melton. We can get this guy up to 4 energy and then guarantee, because of Memory Light, 150 damage. That seems pretty good for something that sits at 170 as a stage 1. I'm kind of a huge fan, but also 4 energy could take a while, right? It could take a very, very long time. I mean, it would just honestly, it would get you to 3 turns if you're going first, maybe even 3 turns if you're going second. No, if you're going second, yeah, it would still take you 3 turns to get the earliest you can get to Metal Arms for 150 with Memory Light, which I don't think it's bad. 150 damage though is so good. I just don't know how Mega Pokemon are going to be impacted by this, because a lot of them could just come in and be like, look at this toaster, and just incinerate it. All right, now we can talk about the other cards. Jellicent, we had the card cut off in the trailer. It's 120 HP, but it can ramp your benched Pokemon. It doesn't matter if they're basic or not. Every time this takes damage. And you also have cards like, I believe, Marlin that can recover 70 HP on this guy. So this could be good in a deck where you're trying to ramp something like, I don't know, Mega Gyarados or maybe something else. I'm just not super sold on it. Next up is Crocodile, which is literally the exact same Crocodile that we got, except the fighting type. And also, instead of discarding a random card in your opponent's hand, or what is it, sending it back to their hand, this discards a random energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. I think it still does 90 damage for 3 energy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the exact same name of the attack. That'd be kind of funny. Let me know in the comments if it is. I think it might be. And next up, we have Honchkrow. And I'll be honest, aside from the Jolteon EX, this is another card that I'm like, yo, this is competitively and just for content, like this is a really good card. Honchkrow, 100 HP, Evil Admonition, I think I pronounced it right, deals 40 base, okay? And then it says this attack does 40 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play that has an ability, right? So if they're running Suicune Greninja, cook, bro, you're just, what is that, 200? I can't even do that math, hold on. Yeah, dude, that's 200 damage on the board if they're running everything has abilities, which is insane. I think this is a really good card. I don't think it's going to be underwhelming at all. And the fact that it's colorless means you could almost slot this into any deck. Next up is Hydreigon. I think we already talked about Hydreigon. This is pretty good. It can ramp itself, deals 130. It's kind of like a Rampardos adjacent. I think it could be really good. You can run this in Darkness decks, and maybe you don't even need to run this in Darkness decks, to be honest, because it generates itself. You just need to do it twice. Next up is Delcatty. I think this is interesting for 2 reasons. You can run this in water ramp decks to get extra Misties active, right? Because it says search for friend's ability once during your turn. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So this literally counters Mega Absol's whole effect, right? It also helps you to find supporter cards to get again, but it also buffs up old decks like, what was it? Silvally, if you think about it, right? So if you use a supporter card, you have no supporter cards, and then you evolve into Delcatty, you get that supporter card back, and now you're swinging for 100 guaranteed with your Silvally. So there's a lot of use case scenarios with this Delcatty, and I think it's pretty good. Which brings us to our final card, Copycat, which I'll be honest, when I read this yesterday, I can't read. I could not read. It says shuffle your hand into your deck, draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. That's a pretty good card. I don't know if this directly counters things like Red Card and Mars, because if they shuffle your hand, you don't get this back, well, then you can't really counter it. But I feel like you can use all the cards in your hand, get down to 1 or 2. Your opponent has 5 cards. Like imagine turn 1 outside of Professor Research, you just use all your cards in your hand, and then you Copycat to draw another 5 from your deck turn 1 or even turn 2. This is like what Iono should have been, right? Like this feels very strong if your opponent has like 4, 5, 6 cards in their hand. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think about the top cards that I've seen for Mega Rising. Now there are a ton of cards I didn't talk about, like we could talk about Trevenant, Turtonator, yada, yada, yada. But there's just so many cards to talk about, and this video is going to be like an hour long. No, I'm just going to share with you guys the top cards that I'm excited for each of the packs. And with that, let me know what I missed, because I'm sure I missed something that you guys are like, oh, Xatumi, this card is amazing. Why didn't you talk about it? Let me know in the comments what you think. And also if you agree with me, and which pack are you going to prioritize if you're going with that strategy on the release of Mega Rising. With that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.